What's up, guys? Dragonfly Mike. Today, I'm going to be talking about color theory and how you can use it for shisha mixology. Now, the definition of color theory is the science and art of using color, how we perceive color, how colors mix, contrast, and harmonize, and also the psychological effects that colors have on us. Now, unlike other mixologies, we don't have the benefit of being able to see the colors of the flavors that we are using. However, with our imagination, depending on how we think of things, we may visualize orange, or our brain will tell us what orange actually looks like. But I do believe it is one of the best tools to use to learn about mixology. Now, this is the basic class, the 101 of color theory and shisha mixology. So I'm going to go over some really basic aspects to color theory, and you guys already know this, but I kind of want to paint the picture. There are three primary colors in color theory. You have red, yellow, and blue. From there, you have secondary colors, which is a combination of the three different primary colors, and that's the oranges and the purples and the greens. And then you have tertiary colors. That's when you take a primary and secondary color, and that's how you get magenta and color like teal. From there, you have shades, tints, and tones. That's when you add a black, white, or a gray to a color. Now, from there is when color theory starts to get a little more complicated, and you have complementary colors, you have analogous colors, analog, singular, and then you have tridec colors, which tri means three. And while what I'm about to discuss does involve those, I'm not really going to go into too much detail about those because it can get a little complicated down the road. Now I've gone over the basics. Let's talk about how to actually utilize this when you're trying to come up with a mix. Let's start with a really simple flavor, must have orange team. So we have to create that orange in our mind. Now, based on what we talked about earlier, we know that orange is a combination of red and yellow. And there are lots of fruits and flavors out there that are those colors. For two examples, you have strawberry, which is red, and then you have lemon, which is yellow. Now, if you take strawberry, orange, and lemon and mix them together, you're going to end up getting a kind of a emulsified flavor where you're not necessarily going to pick out the strawberry or the lemon or the orange. They're going to kind of come together to create a singular flavor. A perfect example of that idea is one of the most popular and beloved flavors out there, Must Have Pinkman, which is a combination of grapefruit, strawberry, and raspberry. While those do have different shades to them, it kind of creates that singular flavor profile. Now, knowing that, that is one of the best starter ways to do things. Take a color like orange, which is a combination of red and yellow, and think of what other things make up orange. The other part of using color theory that's really important in the beginning of using this concept to create mixes is actually shades, tints, and colors, which remember is adding black, white, and gray to a color. A good example of that is pink. Pink, while it is its own color to a certain extent, it is a combination of red and white. Now, a good representation of that kind of red and white to create that pink color is a combination of flavors that you see pre-mixed a lot of times, which is strawberry and vanilla. And while vanilla isn't exactly white, a lot of times it's represented by white. Now, what white ends up doing to a color is it kind of takes away the pop and the brightness of it. And that's a really good way of thinking of how to add flavors like vanilla or coconut cream to a mix. Is it's going to kind of take back the main color that you're working with and mellow it out just a little bit. However, if you're sitting there and you're going, well, I don't really want the strawberry to be mellowed out, we can think about earlier lessons when I talked about using an acid to kind of bring out that strawberry a little more. And you can use a flavor like lemon sweets, and that still falls into this category. So you're creating kind of that singular aspect to the smoke. This is a really simple way of entering into mixology. It allows you to create a visual aspect to what you're mixing together. This is also a really complicated aspect of mixology. And as you start to learn it more and you start making the perceptions and the connotations of what flavors are in comparison to the color wheel, you'll start to create these mixes that are really dynamic and complex using something that we basically learned in grade school. If you are a lounge, if you are an enthusiast, if you want to get into mixology, I highly recommend hanging something like this up in either your workstation or where you pack bowls, whatever it may be. Having this visual representation next to where your tobacco is one of the best things that you can do with this theory. As I've stated before, this is by far one of my favorite ways to create a mix. This will greatly improve how you're mixing tobaccos together. But I think that's all I got, and thanks for watching, guys. Peace out.